They are the world's greatest superheroes. Their mission is to protect the world from evil. The DC Universe is heading toward the light, but it's always darkest before the dawn of DC. A year-long storytelling initiative, new epic series, new creative teams, new battles to fight, forging the future one hero at a time.
All right, that was the debut trailer actually for the Dawn of DC. That we one of the highlights of this rad panel you're about to see are a lot of like first looks and announcements. So welcome to the MEGACON 23 DC panel. My name is Ben Abernathy. I'm the executive editor and group editor for Gotham here at DC. And we have an amazing hour planned, like with first looks and reveals and like sort of sneak peeks that will all be brought to you by like the hottest writers and artists working for DC today. And you're gonna see stuff that you won't see anywhere else. You'll remember where you were at 5:03 p.m. on Friday, March 30th. But what's a panel without panelists? So let me introduce like our killer's row of panelists, if I may. May the door open and reveal Jeff Johns, writer of the show. Do that one again. Let me reveal Jeff Johns. We have Phil Henry Johnson, writer on Action Comics. Next we have Joshua Williamson, writer of Superman. And Simone DeMeo, artist on DC vs. Vampire. Joining us, Mitch Jarrett's artist on Batman the Brave and the Bold. Thank you guys for joining us today. We'll just take this guy off so I'm not punching him.
I'm done with you. Yeah. Last? My writer says I'm not last.
No, that's a good move. Just walk in just for the applause and then I got my fix, I'm good, I can leave.
I should do that. See you guys later. Yeah, no. Well, thank you guys all for joining us today, and thank all of you. We got a packed house. We got a lot to cover, so we're just going to jump right into it if that's cool with everybody. So first up, I want to talk about this monumental Flash 800. And Jeff, we'll start with you. So it was recently announced that you would be providing a story for this sort of epic, oversized issue. And we actually have some art that has not been shown before, which by the amazing Scott Collins, for the first time today. What can you tell us about this story of returning to the Flash?
It's kind of like I guess an epilogue to our Bliss run that we did 100 years ago. But basically playing off Josh's run, which is great, when Hunter went to the Speed Force and what he's been up to since then and how he gets out wide.
Yeah. I'm really excited for that. Obviously a big fan of you and Scott Flash together, so I was pumped to see it.
Yeah, it was great to work with Scotty on it. Very iconic.
And speaking of Josh, people were pretty excited to know that you're contributing to Flash 800 as well.
102. No.
Yeah, wow. So Josh, what can you tell us about your story and who you're working with?
I'm working with Carmine again, who I also did the beginning of Flash during Flash Rebirth. His name's Carmine DiGiandomenico. I'm going to say it right. I said it right. I said it right. All right, great. Okay, I've been practicing. Jim Lee corrected me at the Rebirth panel when I said it wrong, so ever since then I'm like, I'm going to say it correct. But yeah,
we don't want to be corrected by Jim Lee either.
But yeah, like we're doing a story. Him and I are getting back together. We're doing a story about Barry and Iris, and you find out that Barry and Iris have this like secret date night they do once a month. Wally knows about it, but no one knows what they do when they go on the secret date night. Wally has his guesses and he thinks all these nerdy things, but you find out what it actually is they do. It's a really fun story. I'm not sure if I want to totally reveal what it is they do, but
Let's see if anyone wants to guess.
do you want to guess what they do? Wants to guess? I can kind of tease it. They always go to the future for one night, and they go and they visit someone in the future just for one night, and then they come back. That way they don't mess anything up, but they go to the future for one night and they come back. They do it once a month.
I love that.
That's it. Who they visit in the future is the reveal. It's the secret.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Now, you both incorporated the Flash in like your recent works and other projects. How does it feel to come back for this sort of like once in a lifetime, 800 issue? So like visiting an old friend, Jeff? Or is it,
I mean, I love the Flash. I mean, I worked on it in comics and media and stuff. He's my favorite character since I was a kid, and still is. I grew up on the Wally West front, and Mark Waid wrote the best, to me, like seminal superhero, kind of mainstream superhero ever with that. But yeah, I love the Flash. So any opportunity to work on it. Actually, when I was asked to do a story, I called Scott and hey, do you want to work together? Hey, I said, Scott, how about we do like a Flash Captain Cold story? And he goes, we always do Captain Cold. And I was like, yeah, we always do Captain Cold. So we did 100 songs.
Yeah, it's been great. Like it's always really exciting. Like I obviously love working on the Flash and getting a chance. That was one of my requirements for it. It had to be with Mark. Like that was the thing. But yeah, I had like a tiny bit of unfinished business on the book. So when it came around, Jerry Adams, who's been doing the Flash the last couple of years, an amazing run on the Flash. He messaged me and he was like, hey, for 800, I have this thing, you want to do it? And I was like, yes, immediately. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I pitched it to him. He was like, that's awesome. I would love it. The fans would love it. So I was all right, cool. So it was really exciting. It actually took me a little bit to write it because I was like, to get back in that headspace, like, but I was also kind of intimidated to go back in that world a little bit, But going back into it immediately once I started writing the characters again, I was like, you're just like, oh yeah, I love these characters, and it's been really awesome to write Barry and Iris again.
All right, very exciting. And so, sort of changing gears a little bit here. So let's talk some Superman really quick. So we're very lucky to have the two lead Superman writers here with Joshua and Philip. And people always are curious about this, actually, and I'm always interested to see what the response is from creators. But so, how's the collaborative process between the two of you to ensure that there's a kind of a cohesive Man of Steel between action and Superman?
Well, we actually met here a year ago. We've talked a few times before that, but we actually met here a year ago. We had breakfast and we started talking about what we both wanted to do and our thoughts on the characters. And I was like, I want to do this, and you want to do this. Like, I was very much. You can tell in the book, I was very much like, it's gonna be about Superman, Clark, and Lex. And you were like, I'm gonna do a big Metallo thing. And then even, we text a lot at night, My son at night, he has a hard time sleeping, so a lot of times I'm in his room. He's only 3. I'm in his room holding his hand until he falls asleep. And I'm also texting Philip with the other hand. And we text about ideas for the stories, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this in this issue, and he's like, I want to do this in this issue. And then yesterday we had dinner again, and we started talking about next year's stuff. So that's how we sort of work, and then we just share with each other. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's so exciting, man. I just love, I have such a clear voice for Superman. And it's really exciting and fun to work with Josh, who has an equally clear voice for Superman. Not quite the same, but like super clear. And as anyone knows who read Superman 1, he was just terrific. We both wanted our respective books to have its own voice, but
Its own tone.
Its own tone.
Yeah.
But they still it's still like kind of a triangular thing. We're all kind of flying in the same direction, telling the same story. Like we both try to pay tribute to each other's stories as we go. And like I feel like Josh's story is very inspired by the animated series. It gets that same electric feel good kind of thing that the show did. And for me, I'm always trying to recapture those magic moments that Mr. Donner and Reed gave us in those early films, but in the context of like real scary villains. And again, to me, the DC universe is a real place, and like anytime there's a corner of the DC universe that feels less real or less fleshed out than it is in my mind, my instinct is just grab onto it, just make it feel like just more complex and deep and dark, and not just really dark, but in the case of Metallo, dark.
Yeah, you had a really good, you pitched this really good take on Metallo. Like you have this whole idea of like his mythology.
Oh yeah. I mean, with Metallo to us, I mean, every villain should, in some way, in my opinion, feel like the antithesis of their hero, and not necessarily in the same way. That's what we try to make the Mongol. Like if Superman is the champion of the oppressed, as established in Action 1, then his opposite would be the intergalactic slaver, right? Somebody who creates this whole cult of slavery around himself, right? Just he builds a culture of dominance, the way that Fremen and Dune are all about water scarcity. Just like dominance is everything. That's how Mongol was, and Metallo was like the opposite of the iconic Superman image of him like deflecting bullets, like somebody's in trouble and Superman like flies in and deflects bullets, like or destroying a gun, you know? So for me, Metallo is the representation of that gun. He's somebody who found a gun when he was very young, too young, and was just fascinated with it. And that, like this alcoholic who finds her first drink, like finds the gun, and discovers at that moment, like, I'm the killer. And his whole life becomes more and more that gun until he is that gun. Like he's the opposite of Superman in that way. And I wanted to flesh out Metallo as that opposite of Superman, and not just an image. This cool Terminator-looking bad guy, somebody who is the opposite of Superman in a way that matters, you know. So as we introduce more and more bad guys in our run, it's going to be in that way. Like find the opposite of Superman in different ways. Find a villain that's been maybe like not quite as three-dimensional as it could be, he or she could be, and flesh him out and make him like a true threat worthy of this new, you know, incredibly powerful Superman.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And like with my series, as you can see, like he's definitely doing a bit of a more, you said darker, but not darker. He's focusing a lot on the Superman family, and I mostly focus on Clark and Jimmy and Lois, but also Lex. As much as I love Clark, I equally love Lex Luthor. I mean, he's probably my favorite villain for DC Comics. And I always think about how, you know, Lex is arguably the smartest person that he can do, and he's not a stupid person. Like, he does have an ego, he has an ego problem. He's not a stupid person. And I think for somebody who, I always like the mythology where he lived in Smallville, you know, like when Jeff the Secret Origin, like I always liked that mythology of Lex, that he was in Smallville. And I was always fascinated by when Clark left Smallville, he was gone for like 10 years before he got to Metropolis, right? But Lex was also gone for a while. He was in Metropolis for a long time before Clark got there. And I was always like, what was Lex doing in that time period? And so I wanted to explore that a little bit with him, and you start realizing that when Lex first got to Metropolis, there actually were villains and criminals in Metropolis first, and then Lex cleared them all out before he became the Lex Luthor, and now all those villains are starting to coming back in. But one of the things I always found with Lex, it's like, I think that they're kind of like antagonistic relationship. You have these two people who are constantly in and out of their lives for so long. Like, I find that relationship is so fascinating between the two of them. And just for Lex to look at Superman, and for him to finally say to himself, okay, I think the world needs you. The world does need a Superman. But they're gonna have my version of Superman. Right? Like, I'm gonna fix him, and I'm gonna make him the best version of what I think Superman can be like. And this is what it looks like when Lex tries to help him. And then you have to question, like, it's Lex, right? So what is his actual motive? Does he mean it? Or is there something else going on? And of course something else going on. But, you know, I wanted to explore those ideas with him and how, what is it like when Lex really believes he's trying to help Superman? And then how does Superman respond to that? Because when Superman, he has absolute faith in humanity. He looks out the world and he believes in it. He looks at somebody that, you know, he wishes the best for them. And he wants to be the best version that they can be. Except for Lex, right? Like, if he looks at Lex at this point, he actually feels a kind of disappointment, not only in Lex, because he recognizes that if Lex had been good, what life would have been like for Lex if life had been good. But then he also, the fact that he feels that disappointment almost makes him disappointed in himself too, you know? And so to have, there's a scene in issue 1 where Clark and Lois are talking about this, and he says, I feel like the one person I ever gave up on was Lex. And Lois is like, no, Lex gave up on Lex. So we're in this world where Superman for this one moment is like, you know what? I'm going to believe him. Like, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and then we see what happens. And that's a major part of like the entire run that I'm in. If you want Superman really into these ideas like with Lex, and they're going to come in and out of the book, and they have a lot of big stuff. And again, we were talking about last night. And, you know, I was kind of telling him my in game. Well, I always had an in game in mind when I worked on the book, so we were talking about that, and we were sharing how we're going to connect the tissue together, you know, so that our books can definitely have their own identities, but they have that tissue that we love from the shine like.
It was a really fun conversation hearing this story. My hope for these runs is that Josh's run will be like the definitive Clark and Lex relationship, and that action will be the definitive super family book. I really loved the 80-page, 100-page Giants when I was a kid. I had all these second, third-hand comics that just came in like boxes of like, you know, junk that were just there to help me learn to read, and I just became so fascinated with them. And these books that got into, you know, you see Superman on an adventure, then you see Supergirl on an adventure, then you see, you know, back when like there were also like there was a Superboy and like when Superman and Batman had sons and also wore costumes and all that. You know, you see the Batman Adventure in the Batman Family book, and then you'd see, you know, Dick Grayson and Batgirl team up against, you know, Benedict Arnold or whatever. It was just such a fun way to explore all the members of that family and how they're different. And I don't want the members of the super family to be identified by what they look like. Like, oh, well, Connor's from the jacket, and John's the one that has the, you know, the Blue Lightning thing. I want it to be more, you know, here's who they are as people, as characters, make them feel real and how they interact. Here's a little pet name that, you know, one has for the other, but not the others, and, you know, I want it to feel like a real cast. So I'm really excited about it.
I'm Josh, you're joined by the phenomenally talented Jamal Campbell.
Oh yeah,
and we have.
We're showing these pages.
Yeah, this is the first time that we're showing these pages from issue 3. Obviously, you dropped an amazing Lex Luthor. What can you tell us without spoiling anything?
The most I can tell you on this is you know, I'm a little annoyed at Batman that Batman gets all the toys, right? And I mean that in the world, and then I also mean it in McFarlane. It's like there's a million Batman toys, so I was like, dude, we need more Superman toys. So every arc, I would give Clark some kind of new costume, even if it's just for, well, there'll be a reason, there'll be a story reason. But yeah, so in here, Jamal designed, you can see a little bit of it in the 2 panels there, but he has like a special containment suit, which you also have in the cartoon, to show we are influenced by the cartoon, but I wanted to give Superman way more toys to play with, and so you'll see that as we go in the book. And then Jamal is, you know, he's my partner in the book, and he is a genius. I really think he's an amazing talent. I feel incredibly lucky to be working with him. We connected. I've been a fan of his since he did Prowler at Marvel way back in the day, and so we've been talking for a while. And he just, it's been really awesome. When I first started on the book, I actually wrote this like 10-page document that wasn't even about like what was going to happen in the book. It was just my ideas and thoughts on the characters. And I gave it to him, and I was like, I don't want you to read this. It's a lot, you know. And then he read it with like an hour and had all these sketches and all these ideas, and it was, you know, it was great. I'll give you an example. We have these new villains that are created, Dr. Farm and Professor Kraft. And the reason there's 2 of them is because we originally only had 1 villain, and then we turned the designs in. They were so good, I was like, oh, there's 2 of them now. Like we use both of them. That's how we have had both of them, just because Jamal, it's insane. Like every time pages come in, they're awesome. Like just now, before I came in, he turned a bunch of new pages in. Dude, he's so good. He's just very good.
Yeah, he's doing career best stuff. It's amazing. And so Action Comics 1053 came out just here a few days ago on Tuesday. Everyone checked it out, right? There'll be a quiz later. Now, come on now. So here we have Action Comics 1054. We're going to reveal some pages here as well. And Philip, what can you tell us what's going on here without any like super spoilers?
Without any spoilers. So the end of the last issue saw, so we've introduced a new organization in Metropolis called Blue Earth, and something that kind of connects us to real life right now, and just following the war world refugees coming to Earth for a while. There's a very anti-alien organization that's kind of sprung up called Blue Earth that you know, is more, you know, Earth isolationist, and they're getting more and more violent, and we're going to see that play out for the rest of the year and next year as well. Blue Earth is becoming a legit threat, and we've seen. So the super twins are from World, and Otho, the older of the 2, we call them the super twins because they look like twins, but Otho is actually a year older. They're Irish twins, if you will. And, Otho is kind of like watching these protests and understanding that there's violence here, and there's people that are out to get them, and she's got this inclination to protect her brother, and she's still very shaped by her experiences in a war world in a way that her brother has in some ways been protected. So at the end of 1053, she kind of took action in a way that might be ill-advised, and so then John and both his younger brother Osel go to kind of, you know, help her out, and the whole thing was a trap. It was a trap, and they get there, and now we see Metallo kind of bringing it against John.
Beautiful pages too by Rafa Sandoval.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, these pages are actually by Max.
At least Max.
Yeah, this is a fill-in issue, but we told him, like, hey, so you've seen the work that Rafa has done. Can you kind of skew your style just a little bit to make it all feel cohesive? He's like, yeah, I can do that because I'm awesome with all of our artists. And it's like so dope. And so in this scene, they're trying to find somebody, and Superman just goes like flies up above. We're just kind of exploring. We're trying to explore like Superman's increased power level right now. So we saw him in War World kind of like having lost a step power-wise and how he can hang, you know, when he's lost a step, and now he's been with the White Sun, Star Force, the War World. He's storming his bed forever. Like back when I was a kid, we'd see him like flying through these rings, going back decades at a time, and just like, you know, pulling planets by chains. It's like, I can do literally anything. I wanted to see him just explore his power levels a little more. So here, he just flies up above Metropolis, and he's just trying to find them by hearing their heartbeat and deceiving millions. So he's just listening to everyone's heartbeat and talking about how all the citizens of Metropolis, he wishes that people could hear the fact that they are all part of that. He hears this collective thrum of humanity all across the world that is all of our collective heartbeats, and he's kind of sifting through them for two specific ones.
So Action's actually an oversized title with you writing the lead story. And in the backup, you have industry legend and the author of, I guess, the most famous Superman story of all time, Dan Jurgens, writing the backups.
Yeah,
is that sort of like the ultimate sort of pinch-me nerd moment?
Working with Dan, yeah, completely. I mean, working with Dan Jurgens in lead weeks too is like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, like I grew up on those stories. As a kid, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. Like, I mean, an hour plus from the nearest comic store, like darkest Kentucky, like nothing around anywhere. And the only comics I could find were like secondhand stuff, or occasional like spinner rack stuff, but even those were far away. And when I was finally able to like get hold of some comics, they were largely Dan Jurgens Superman comics. And working on a book with him just is nuts. I just feel disrespectful even like saying the word Dan and not Mr. Jurgens.
He's definitely Mr. Jurgens too.
Yeah.
He really doesn't like being called
I love it. So actually, Philip, we have another project too that we recently announced. Was kind of wondering if you could share some thoughts on your upcoming Green Lantern War Journal, and as well as the backups in Green Lantern. So what we got going on here?
Look at that dope ass cover.
Awesome.
Yeah, God, I love John Stewart. I mean, I grew up largely with Hal, but I did have some old books of John Stewart, but I still identify him as an architect, and I've seen him portrayed so often as the former Marine. And I just have a different version of John in my head, and I can't wait to put on the page. Well, I mean, that we already kind of did in Dark Crisis. I got to kind of depict John. To me, Hal Jordan is so cool because he is the Dark Horse Green Lantern, like the loose cannon that kind of does what he wants and doesn't obey the rules and has become one of the goats, like despite all that, or maybe because of it. But John Stewart was always the obvious choice. Like he was the guy who always should have been, who of course was going to be a Green Lantern. And the fact that he was a leader of soldiers, but also an architect and just the brilliant tactician and devastating warrior and just everything. He's just everything. He's everything that Green Lantern should be. And I'm trying to show that version here. We got to show a version. We got to show an alternate universe, like a new universe being born in the pages of Dark Crisis, in which there's a world where there's no Justice League. He is the Superman of Earth. Like Green Lantern equals Superman in that world. He's the guy that just holds Earth together. And we're going to see that world kind of intruding on this world. We saw in that issue, we saw him fighting the Radiant Dead. Led by the Bright Revenant. The Bright Revenant was destroyed, but then we kind of get these little hints that there was more out there. And so in this run, we're going to see that world kind of intruding on this one. And is influenced by 80s action movies. Basically, I remember it told me how long I had for the story and my vision of John. So we're kind of towing the line between the DC universe, Predator, and Terminator. So I think this image sums that up pretty well. So this is a variant cover, admittedly, but yeah, I'm so stoked you guys see what we're doing. It's going to be so fun.
I love it. I love it. Now let's pivot here to Gotham City. So Mitch, Batman Brave and the Bold, such an iconic title. So I gotta ask. So how excited was Tom King to work with you on this launching this new series?
Well, yeah, I remember he pitched me the idea, and it was so funny because he's like, you know how like decompression in comics bugs everyone? He's like, yeah, I know, they always talk about it. He's like, well, for this next thing, we're gonna take an 8-page story from 1940, we're gonna make it a 96-page story. You're an idiot, I'm in.
So the lead feature in the Batman the Brave and the Bold, you can see some interior pages up here. So it's an updated retelling of the first meeting between Batman and the Joker. And it's just out of curiosity from a process standpoint, because these pages, I mean, obviously everything you do, Mitch, is beautiful, but there's an extra sort of like, I don't know, love, I think, here that I wonder, approaching sort of Batman Year One versus your other sort of like work on the Dark Knight.
For sure, and what's even funnier about that is originally I forgot about the Year One part of it. So Batman was in his like more modern costume, and then like I literally finished the whole book and was like, shit. And went back and redrew all the Batman, and it looks great. Oh, yeah, my editor, I didn't even tell him. Ben's my editor.
Mitch is hard work. He's way ahead of schedule right now.
It's even better that the editor didn't catch you after the first few pages.
But I wasn't sure if we were going all the way back to Year One, or if we were going to like make it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Batman's my guy. I'm obsessed. So like going back and being able to retell a seminal story in a whole new way was a lot of fun, and it continues to be so. And it's so much fun to go back and see all these minor characters used, but in that art style of 1940, and then trying to modernize it in my style has been a lot of fun.
I love that. So that series comes out in May. So here's a question to the audience. Has everyone caught up reading JSA and Stargirl, The Lost Children? Yeah? Well, all of you did clap. I've got my eyes on you. Can you fill them in a little bit? What's been going on with the New Golden Age and JSA and Stargirl?
With Stargirl, the character obviously I love. I wanted to tell another story with her, but really harken back to what I loved about Young Justice with Todd Knopf. I thought that was a great book. I used to read it like, religiously, and I love Todd's art. And we've worked together a little bit, but Todd and I were talking about a story, and I said, well, I want to do a story, but it's like basically Young Justice Society. And I didn't tell him I was going to have 50 characters in it. So we signed on, then I told him we had 50 characters in it. And then, but I really wanted to explore this, what a sidekick meant, what teenage hero meant back in the day, way back when they first came out, because, you know, all the characters, it's kind of goofy to say sidekick, and every character, every superhero had a sidekick, but there's an emotional reason to all that. It was like the fact that a hero would stop and help some kid individually, like start locally, like help the community and pick up, you know, or find someone that needed help. That's what I really loved about the idea of what sidekicks were supposed to be. It was supposed to be this relationship where a hero would take the time to help a kid, and the kid in turn would inspire that hero. And examining, you know, that lost age of sidekicks and what these heroes, these young heroes, all had hope when they became a sidekick, and ultimately they were forgotten about by us, by the world, and so I want to tell a story about, you know, why these characters are great, and bring them all back, and just, you know, remind people what a sidekick meant. And Stargirl is out there fighting always for the people that are overlooked, and that's why I love the character so much, because my sister did the same thing. So we've been jamming on this book for a long time. The last issue's done. It's beautiful. It's 30 pages. It's got more spreads in it than I think Todd Knopf's ever drawn in a book, filled with hundreds of characters. So it's really fun, but again, this was supposed to harken back to the classic DC comics that I loved when Young Justice was around. And something that was, you know, hopeful and bright, and personified what Stargirl was all about, which is caring about people.
And we have some sneak preview pages of Justice Society America #4 coming out, which this issue is coming out in a few weeks. Oh boy, look at these pages. Mikael Yamin is one of the best superhero artists, actually period in this business. What can you tell us about issue 4?
I mean, it's been great to work with Mikael. It's awesome, clearly, and he has such a wonderful style of laying out the panels, even though it's like zigzag. I don't know what you call them, not lightning bolts. They look like hieroglyphics or something. But the panel layouts are really interesting, and he just goes into detail. Not like those characters that whole shot of Huntress's supervillain team. And if you don't know what the story of the book right now, Justice Society of America, if you don't know who the Justice Society of America is, you should probably leave the room. But they were the first superhero team ever. They've had generations and generations of different teams. And we opened up issue 1 with this team 20-some years from now, and Batman's daughter, the Huntress, is a member of that team, and she's used that team to recruit villains and try and reform them, like Batman helped Catwoman reform her mother. And that team's attacked and murdered in front of her by a time-traveling villain named Megaton, who then is murdering every generation of JSA and going backwards in time for some reason. And she's trying to figure out why. And now this is the moment that they come to our time to kill this version of the JSA. And she's here trying to stop it. But it's a really fun book. I love the book. We're gonna, with issues 6 and 7, we're doing a 2-part Dawn of the DCU story where Stargirl brings all those kids that she saves from lost children into the book. One of them joins the JSA, and then we're going to be linked up with the rest of the DCU, which is really fun.
It's really exciting.
I love that cover too. That cover's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that this Huntress is a different Huntress. It's a nod to the original Huntress, who was the daughter of Batman and Catwoman, and she gets stuck here in our time at the end of the story.
I love it, and Yannick's the best, I would say. It's so good, so good. So Simone, we haven't had a chance to chat with you yet. It's great to see you again, my friend. I understand that you have something to reveal here, that you came just to MEGACON today to reveal to all of these people.
The first people to hear this.
It's the first people to hear this.
First, sorry guys, I'm not American, I'm Italian. I try to explain my best, but sorry, okay. First. Yeah, I'm here and I'm so proud to announce that I'm the artist of the new Batman Robin series with Joshua Williamson. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the wraparound issue 1 cover. So, Josh, how did this come about? Batman and Robin, what?
So 2 years ago when I started working on Batman with you, I was also doing Robin around the same time, but I also knew that like Batman run would end and then Chip was going to take over and I was going to Dark Crisis, but I also knew that Robin was going to end and we were going to go into Batman versus Robin on this planet. But I had so many more stories with both those characters that I wanted to tell. And, I love Damien. He's my favorite Robin. I always joke, I feel like he's my little baby boy. I'm very precious about him. And I wasn't done. That's basically how I felt about it. So even long before we announced I was leaving Robin and leaving Batman, I went to Ben and I said that I'm not done. I still have a lot more stories to tell with these characters. And then I just asked Ben, I was like, I want to do a Batman and Robin, what do you think? And jumped at it, Yeah.
So I think I had like a board in my office in Burbank that Batman and Robin was on the top of the list of dream projects someday. So it actually definitely aligned.
Yeah, it worked out. And so then for the last year, it's been on my mind, I wanted to do, and I felt like it was one of the biggest secrets I was keeping because even when I was leaving, same with you, you were real good. You didn't tell Jamie, dude. He went to a convention in Italy, I think, and you wouldn't even tell James. Like you're like, I'm working on something, but I can't tell you what it is. And I was like, and then James was like, it's kind of around, right? James is my closest friends, he knows everything. But so, for the last year, we've been talking about and working on. So even when I was leaving Robin and I was leaving Batman, I didn't tell anybody. So it was hard because I wanted to be like, the story's not over. It will continue, and it'll continue next year in this September. And so then Ben has suggested this morning. I've been a fan so much for a long time, so I was like, yes, let's do it. He and I met in New York Comic Con for the first time, and we just sat there with lunch with Ben. We started just talking ideas. The first thing I asked him, I emailed you long before. Well, he was doing covers for Robin too, so that was part of it. There was connective tissue. But I emailed you and I was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? We're doing Batman and Robin, what are the villains, what are the locations? And you were like, I want to do Arkham Asylum. And I was like, we blew it up. We gotta figure something else out. So I was like, we'll figure it out though. We'll figure out flashbacks. So we've been talking ever since then, and yeah, issue 1's done. It doesn't come to September, issue 1's done, and it looks amazing, yeah. So instead of Arkham Asylum, we're gonna go to Gotham Zoo. anyone that knows me knows I am obsessed with the Batman Returns movie, and like the beginning of that movie, they go to the aquarium actually. But with this, so the Gotham Zoo, tongue-in-cheek, which is spoilers, plays a major set piece in the book. But to me, with a big part of the book is that at this point, I feel like Bruce and Damian, they know how to be Batman and Robin. Like they've had their war. At this point, they're Batman and Robin. They're back together, but they kind of don't know how to be father and son right now. And before, when they were living with each other, they were father and son. They had Alfred, and now they're having to live with each other, and there's no Alfred to act as that buffer, to act as that basically that other parent, you know, with that relationship. And so I wanted to put them back together and see how they come back together, not just as these two heroes, but how they are as father and son, knowing that Alfred is gone, he's up there. One of the things you'll kind of notice is that, you know, Damian, he was trained by Talia, the League of Assassins. You know, he was trained by Rage, he was trained by Bruce. He was also trained by Alfred. And so I want to play up those ideas of showing that relationship and how he was trained by Alfred and how that impacts his relationship with Bruce when he sees Bruce going through hardships. And part of what Bruce is missing is Alfred and Damian seeing that and saying, how do I help my father this way that Alfred would help him? So a lot of the stuff is stuff we're putting in the book, and there's a lot of really fun stuff. If anyone read Robin, you know that we had a thing in there with Robin reading manga. That is going to continue in a new form we're working on. I think you'll be excited to see what the next step for Damian is manga fandom, what the role it takes on next for him. But yeah, the first issue is beautiful. It's noisy. He has a bunch of answers.
Yeah. I've read some answer because I think in Italian it's a problem. It's a real problem. Yeah. Sorry.
His English is great, right?
No.
I understand every word you just said. I don't know what you're nervous about.
No. Thanks. I'm loving working on this series because it's a perfect mix between dynamic situation with Batman and Robin and family relationship. It's beautiful because I can draw something dynamic and something family in the same book. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
It's really a dream come true because I'm a big fan of Batman since when I was a child and I see for the first time Batman animated series. Yeah, I'm so proud of this book.
It's beautiful. Yeah, the first issue is great.
Yeah, we're really excited for it.
Oh, and Damian gets a car.
Yeah.
So Damian gets a car. Finally, Bruce finally lets him drive. You know, way back when Nightfall happened, Tim Drake got a car. He was the Redbird. He got a car then, but he had this like nice, sleek car, like this little hot rod thing, and I was like, Damian is so much more rough around the edges, and I was like, he's gonna have a Mad Max car. Like he's gonna have this like off-road sort of like ATV that he's running around and kind of Gotham with. So he's the one driving this time. So yeah, it's been really fun. Yeah, you had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. There's a whole sequence in the first issue where Bruce basically is like, I'm gonna drive, and Damian's like, oh, I have something, and then into the page and
It's difficult to draw a car in the sequence, but okay.
And Batman is not used to his son driving. It's really fun.
I love it. So Simone, when you're not designing dune buggies or drawing beautiful interior pages, you're also an award-winning cover artist. You've done a lot of covers for me. You're the main cover artist actually on Batman, Brave and the Bold. Just sort of a process question. I'm curious, like when you approach, how do you approach like a cover versus like say an interior splash page or like an interior page? Like what's your approach?
Okay.
And Mitch, I'll ask you the same after Simone's done.
For me, there are two very different things to do. When I work on a cover, I always think about the composition and on the idea. I always try to tell something with the single image. It's so hard, but yeah. I love working on idea, and I create different level of reading on a cover. It's one of my favorite things to do. And on the page, I work on sequentiality. The composition had to follow the flow of reading, and it's so different from the cover. I think it's really different jobs, but I love both to do. Yeah, and I'm so happy to be here with Mitch because it's one of the best for me, and yeah, I think he can explain better than me, for sure.
Back at you on that one. I think every time I see something on Twitter, I write you because your stuff blows me away. Thank you. We're just going to do this the whole time. Thank you. I come from graphic design and advertising before I did comics, and so the way
This is your secret.
yeah. So the way I approach a cover is both like, obviously want a cool image. I mean, that's the main thing that a fan wants and you want, but then I also have to consider all the elements on the page and the colors being used, positive and negative space, all because the main goal of the cover, I feel, is to get your eye to stop when they're looking at the big rack. And so there's all different ways you can do that with negative space. There was a long period where nobody was using white on covers, so it was a real easy thing to put a white on cover, and all of a sudden, bam, you're the best cover on the rack. Now people count on it. But yeah, I just come from it from that angle. All sorts of tricks you learn when you dive into graphic design, as far as the placement of things, that all just helps your eye stop on it.
Yeah, I love it. If you go to Mitch's booth, he's got like all his covers and he's got some stuff and stuff, and it's actually amazing to see the range and scope that he has done. So that is actually the sort of like core presentation we had for everyone today. I always like to take the opportunity to have